Morning. It is wonderful to be with you again. I thought I'll go live this morning. We haven't done a live session in a while. This is Dr. Yonnette, and I'm coming to you. I wanted to share with you a little bit more about my not so big fat, not so Greek family as I prepare for the day. It's Sabbath morning. Oh, I said Sabbath. It's Saturday morning. I go to church on Saturday, so I call it Sabbath. It's Saturday morning, and I wanted to share with you a little bit more about my family. And today I'm talking about my family talents. I know a lot of you come with a lot of creativity in your family. Text me, chat with me, share with me your family experiences. And if I can start talking about my family, let's start with my dad. My dad was so talented. He could build anything. From building houses, he could make furniture. He was a master and still is a master gardener. He's a master gardener. He can plant anything. He can fix any lawn that is really in dire strait. He can make it look like new. Add that grass, add the floral stuff, the flowers, and make your lawn look wonderful. So my dad was very, very talented. And I keep saying was, he is still very talented. And then when it comes to my mom also was a boss. She was a boss lady. She sewed, she cooked, she planned banquets, she did plays. She took care of the young people in our area. She was a boss. She made shoes. She made, you name it, she baked. So she did our baking for Christmas. She baked on a regular basis. She cooked food. I remember one year we had a banquet for our youth. And, I shouldn't even say 1 year. Every year, my mom was always late because everybody was at our house. Everybody was at our house preparing the meals, preparing the program. She took us camping. My mom was a boss lady. She did everything. And then she took care of 8. My mom was super, super duper talented, and she was a very good listener. And here is where my eldest sister, Hazel, took after her, because Hazel can cook and bake and do tons of stuff. And she also was a good listener and still is a good listener to her children, to the people in the neighborhood. They're always at her house helping out with the meals, do it that she's preparing, because she's always cooking just like my mom. Now my second sister is the listener. She's the listener, and her name is Grace, and she is the lawyer in the family. So she's the professional when it comes to legal documents, legal issues. You go to Grace and she'll give you the answer. She's also like the glue. She keeps different aspects, different members of the family together. So that was Grace. Now Janice, when we were growing up, Janice was like also the multi-talented one. Janice was a boss at baking, and she still is. She can bake all kinds of pastries. And pies. She cooked. I remember when her son, he first came to the States, he was about 4 or 5. And that was the first time that we were meeting him. And he was like, You can't cook like my mother. My mother can cook. You can't do this like my mother. My mother can do this. My mother can do that. And that's true. She was so talented. She sings, she draws, she paints, she cooks, she takes care of her children. She makes sure that they are taken care of very well and takes care of her husband. She has been into health, natural health. So you have a condition, she has a remedy. You just text her up, send her a text, and she is going to fix it. She's the best fix it when it comes to health. So she has the flu bomb. She has, everything. You complain about headaches, she is going to give you a remedy. You complain about congestion, she's going to give you a remedy. You complain, I'm doing a chemical peel. You complain about anything, she has a remedy for you. And it's all going to be natural, herbal remedies. All right. And then you come to me. I was in the middle, and I tend to, I did a little bit of everything too. I draw, I speak, I try to sing. I've been trying to learn how to sing. And I must back up here because my family sings. They would form groups, quartets and trios, and they would sing. And I'm always the one on the outside trying to get in to be a part of the group. I would say that I don't have a beautiful voice. I do have a beautiful voice. But, I still struggle with singing. And that's on my bucket list. One day, I'm going to take voice lessons and be able to stand on the stage before an audience and sing my heart out. Sing a solo by myself. That's on my bucket list. But one of the things I did as I was growing up, besides drawing and painting and all the other stuff I mentioned earlier, one of the things I did was do poetry. I remember I was like 5 or 6 perhaps when I first stood on the stage and said my first poem. It was a time when my mom was planning a concert for the young people in our area, and my older sister was the person assigned to do the poem, and she was not having it because she would not learn the verses. She wouldn't learn the verses, and my mom kept trying to teach her the verses, and she wouldn't get the verses. And so when they were there trying to review and rehearse, I started saying all the lines of the poem, and then they switched to me, and I became the person who said the poem. And I want to share with you the poem this morning as my chemical peel dries and works in on my face. And the poem was like this: building character. And it says, remember, I learned this when I was 5 or 6, so if I don't remember the whole thing, bear with me. It says, do you know the little thoughts that flutter through your mind are always either good or pure or selfish and unkind? And did you know that what you think and what you say today will make you what you are to be because you grow that way? Your life is just like a house. The things you say and do are like the bricks the builders use, for they are building you. The bricks that crumble, none would want to build into a wall, because when wind begins to blow, the house will quickly fall. And so to build your character and build it strong and true, use pleasant words, do kindly deeds, and let your thoughts be pure. So I learned that poem, and I stood on the stage and I said it before hundreds of people for that concert, that little 5 or 6 year old girl. And over the years, I've memorized multiple poems, and I've learned those poems and shared with audience. And I love public speaking. All right, I'm going to wash off my peel. I love public speaking. So that was me. Then after me was Miss Robin. Robin was also the listener. She can sit down and listen to your stories and sympathize and empathize with you. I remember the first time I ever came in contact with somebody with special needs was because Robin was willing enough to sit down and listen to this young child who was dumb and deaf. And she brought him home and would help to understand what he was trying to communicate with us. And you know, back in those days, in the Caribbean, for example, there was nothing like, you know, you actually trying to understand. There were no services, I should say, for people with special needs. So Robin was like right out there front and center, listening to them and trying to understand what their needs were. So she was talented in that area. She also, you know, joined in the group of singing and, you know, doing those other activities that my family did. And then after Robin came Carl. And Carl was the master blaster when it comes to doing things. You know, Carl would do things so fast. Mommy would like give him a responsibility, say, Carl, please clean up the kitchen, or please, you know, cook. That's one thing. Our parents taught us all how to cook. So every person in our family, including the boys, know how to cook. And Carl was a master at that. He can cook, he can clean the house, he could iron, and he was also very helpful. He was a very helpful child. And I know he's still a very helpful person. Right next to us, our neighbor, we had a man who was, he was much older. And he was blind. He was going blind. And so he would always call Carl over to take him to the supermarket to get his food and whatever else he needed. And Carl was so patient and kind, he would be there with him. And then after Carl came Conrad, and Conrad was the one who thought he had talents preaching. And he started preaching at the age, I'd say maybe 2 or 3. He would get on top of the table, and he did not have his theology right back then. But he had something to say, and he would hold down the audience and say what he had to say at the top of his voice. So it's no doubt or surprise why now he is a preacher preaching in Texas. So that was Conrad. Conrad was also a singer, and he still is. He sings very well, and he was the inspiration for a lot of other people who went into music. So he was a singer and still is a singer. And then Conrad was also, is that a good thing? He was also a manipulator. You know, Conrad, we kind of grew up in pairs. You know, there are 8 of us. So Conrad and Michelle were the 2 musketeers. And when Conrad wanted something from, you know, our parents, and he thought that maybe they wouldn't give it to him, he would talk Michelle. He would talk Michelle into going to them and asking for what he wanted. And he would end up with that particular item. And I remember him and Michelle always there cooking up something to get from our parents. No wonder they ended up and they moved to China, where they did the same thing. Now Michelle is the last of the 8 of us, and she is so good at music. She formed her own music group, the Starlet Singers, back when she was in high school, and they were singing around the country. At that time, we were in Antigua, and they are singing and bringing joy to people. Michelle is also a master at organizing activities and running organizations that are nonprofit that focus on helping the youth. So we had fun growing up together. We did activities together that developed our skills. And I remember being in OT school and us, having to make a splint. And my splint ended up being the splint on show because I had those skills of sewing and using my hands. So my family is a very, very talented family. We have done tons and tons of stuff. And we are, very compassionate. We interact with people and support them during their difficult times. And I would love to hear from you, the kind of family you grew up in and what your skills are and what you love doing. So share with me, send me a text or a message or whatever it is. This is Dr. Yonnette sharing with you my morning regimen and my experience growing up in a not so big, not so Greek family. Have a blessed day.